Today I am joined by Kristina Danowski, head of school at Renaissance Montessori School. Kristina has been part of the school since 2003 as a parent, board member, parent guild leader, and now head of school. Her leadership reflects a deep commitment not only to Montessori education, but to building a thriving, mission-driven community where families, children, and staff grow together. Today, we're diving into one of the most important and often overlooked elements of Montessori education, how we support families intentionally building strong school communities. So, Kristina, I am so excited to have you here. You've experienced Montessori from nearly every aspect, which gives you a very unique perspective on what families really need. So I am so grateful that you're here. For anyone who, well, I don't know why anyone would know this, but I have Kristina for a good amount of time, and every once in a while I'll call her, and every once in a while she'll call me. We're not that far away, but yet it seems like forever.
Feels farther than it should be, right? Yeah.
So we don't get together often enough, but when we do, it's always so wonderful. So thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm so grateful to be here. It's always wonderful to chat with you, and I love talking about Montessori. It's my favorite topic.
Yes. So real quick, you have been part of your school community for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How would you define a strong Montessori community?
Yeah, it's a good question, and one I've been kind of thinking about, but I would say that a really strong Montessori community is where everyone, all the members of the community, the parents, the children, the faculty, the staff, everyone involved shares a clear vision of the full development of the human person. And through interconnected relationships, love, mutual respect, really that full vision. And they're all connected to each other, to the environment, to each other, and all in that triangle. So that really the goal is that all of the members of the community are able to have life and have it to the fullest, like our Lord promised us. Yeah. So when I think about like what are the critical elements, I have kind of like there's like top 3. It has to be really beautifully prepared environments, of course, for both the children, but also for the adults. So that means workspaces for staff, gathering spaces for parents, communal celebrations, and then oops, I'm sorry, not work, and my walkie just went off. And then the adults need to be really well trained. And then, finding families that are really engaged and wanting what you offer. So that mission driven kind of triangle.
I think that's it's hard to achieve, and it's harder than you would expect to achieve. Expect it to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Some of the things you were talking about, I think that's the goal. And I think that you have a lot of experience in kind of cultivating that culture in that community. So what are some of the biggest challenges families face when they first enter Montessori?
Yeah, I think something that's really often overlooked is the lingo, the language. I think, Montessorians, we talk a different language than what parents are usually hearing. And that's great and fine for everyone who knows the definition of normalization. But if you start talking about normalization to a parent, you're going to lose them right away. They don't know what that means. My child's not normal. What's happening here? Even this idea of teachers as a guide or directress, which is something so important and critical to us, the parents want to hear my child's teacher, right? So one of the biggest barriers that we've seen over the years that we can remove easily is using language that everyone understands, and then starting to talk more about what's the theory behind why we say other things. But just starting off, this is your child's teacher. We're so happy to introduce you to her, and from there. Um, so then the second piece of that is that understanding this method. It's so foreign to most of us. We didn't. Most people, every once in a while, I get a prospective parent in, or a parent that's like, I went to Montessori as a child, but that is not the typical path. So it's a challenge to understand what they do, what the children do every day. So that's a big barrier to cross. And then just one of the other things that I think gets overlooked really easily is the practical information that families need to enter into the community of your school. Every community has its own culture. Things that are said, things that are unsaid, things that we all just do because we've been here for a long time. That's very daunting for a new family or someone who's even considering being a part of a Montessori community. And it's a challenge. So it's one of the things we really have to pay attention to.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head on this. I think that, the parents that are coming in, like you said, they don't have this experience. And so it's very foreign to them. And so you have to kind of create a vision that they're and illustrate it so that they can understand it. I think the ultimate goal is something that everybody has in common. We need to make that bridge there more apparent, because the typical school, it's more of a hit or miss thing. So the child that's able to hit that ultimate goal is doing it in spite of versus being intentional about it. And so I think that communicating, yes, while it's foreign, communicating that vision so that the parents can understand how we're going to get to that ultimate goal.
Absolutely.
Of the whole human.
Yeah, yeah. And what does that mean? What does it look like for a human to thrive? Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some practical ways schools can partner with parents without overwhelming them?
Yeah, this is a really good question, and one that we've kind of gone through so many different variations of over the years. Like you said, I've been in many different roles in our school. So I've received information as a parent. I've, created policy as a board member. I've, part of fundraising and for a long time now as administration. And so we're always working to iterate on this process. But one of the main things that kind of over the course of my time here that I've realized is connection. And one of the basic principles that I kind of use that informs everything that we do here with parents and other staff members is how we know humans work. We know this through our training about how we're guiding children to become fully human. So if there's a principle that we use to help children understand the world, it also applies to adults. And connection and relationship is that lens through we see this. So some of the ways that we've really been successful in creating and building those connections really starts with the prospective parent visit. We make it about an hour and a half long. The parents come in and they connect with Becky, our administrator. Then they connect with the environment. So they observe in the environment. They're able to connect with a teacher if they need to speak with them. And then they have another connection with me where we talk about that mission and the goals and what it is we do here, what their goals are for their family, for their children, and really just get into it right away. And then the next part is an admissions interview. So we connect the child with the teacher, and then the parent again with us. Once they're enrolled, we pair them up with a mentor family. So that's going to be in their class. So we make that connection of someone who is part of our community already to reach out to them and say, we're so glad to have you here. I know this is hard. You're going to get a lot of emails about how to do it. I'm your guy to, or your, your, to like, I'm your guy on the inside to say, what does this mean? And to welcome, I'm the person that will make eye contact with you at these events so that you won't be alone. Those sorts of things. And then over the summer, because we're an academic year program, we started a very slow but regular drip email campaign with small chunks of information to digest slowly about all of those practical cultural things that it takes to like successfully drop your kid off the first day of school, but in little chunks. And then we finish it all off with a fall that's filled with events that connect people. So a back to school picnic before school even starts, an elementary hike where they go and hike together, an orientation evening for all parents. And as much as we can say mandatory, I do make it mandatory even for returning parents. We say, like, this is a place where we all start our year. We have coffee and donuts during our phase-in so that parents can all connect with each other. And then we do it again about 3 weeks later. We have a big bonfire so that there's this one more piece of here we are all together. And we do find that by that time, everybody's kind of like, okay, we know each other. We know maybe not all of the names of everybody, but we know each other. And then the final piece of that, and maybe one of the most critical that we've seen that helps, is at the end of September, we do a silent journey. So for anybody who doesn't know what a Montessori silent journey is, it's the parent's opportunity to be the child in the classroom. So we all come together on a Friday night. We do a silent walk through all of the environments, toddler all the way up to elementary. We have a discussion on it. And then the next day, come back and receive presentations, work with the materials, do little group activities so they can really connect with the environment that their child is in as well, and with each other. So I know that was a lot of information, but it takes a lot of pieces of connection to really get everybody on the same page.
Kristina, I think that's amazing. You're giving me a lot of ideas. Although I'm a little jelly over here about the bonfire, I'm pretty sure DC would descend on me if we started a bonfire. But
you have to do it behind the building so that the fire department doesn't get called, right? But we also, for those of you who don't know our campus, we do have 10 acres, kind of in a country area, which is very different than some Montessori schools. So we're blessed in that way.
No, I think, I remember the first time going to your campus, and it is just gorgeous. It really, really is. And actually, the first time I was there, you had newly acquired it. There was a big move, I think. Yeah. And so that was about a decade ago.
2016. Yeah, we moved here in 2016. So it's our 10th year here.
Yeah.
And it's a big project. It's a big, beautiful campus, but it's also a big project. So it's.
And you got your adolescent program there, and you got the farm, and you got a lot going on over there. But you do have a lot of really great things that could be implemented at a lot of different schools, like the trickle down email over the summer, and then the picnic ahead of the school year, and the parents, the current parents reaching out to the incoming parents. These are really great touch points to make the parents feel welcome, because if the parents are welcome, the children are also welcome. But you're also honoring that relationship that is in the family and honoring the family. There's a lot of great things that are going on that I'm hearing.
And one piece of what you said that's important is that when the parent feels comfortable dropping their child off, the child is going to feel comfortable walking into the building, and we all need comfortable children in our classrooms, right? And that helps with phase-in, it helps it with normalization, it helps that whole process. But if a parent is unsure, the child is going to feel that uncertainty in them, and that'll translate into, I don't know if I want to do this,
So I'm making the assumption here, but when you have that kind of relationship with the families, and the families have that relationship with each other, what you're creating is this lasting community, not just a community, one that lasts, so that each year, if if they're going to make a decision on moving or decision on, staying at the same school, it makes it harder for them to
Yeah.
decide anything but staying
Yeah.
at that
But yeah.
community.
And I have those conversations with parents each year. In fact, I had one with a parent this morning who was like, I'm thinking of homeschooling, but my heart would hurt to leave this community, and that would be, we would hurt to have her not here as well. So, that's an important piece of how we feel like we belong.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you've led the parent guild effort. What
Yeah.
actually works when it comes to getting parents involved at that level?
Yeah. That's a great question, and we've over the years also, gone in different directions with this. But again, I think that key is connection, um, both with each other, but also with their children. So one of the things that is hard for parents when they drop their kid off at school is that this most important part of their life is now somehow disconnected from them. Right? They're not a part of this part of their day. So one of the best ways to get parents involved is to help them do that by connecting with their children. This is hard in Montessori schools because we don't necessarily want parents walking in and out of our classrooms, and what does that look, but there's lots of ways that they can help with their children and their environment, that make them feel connected to the school. So some of the ways we do that is we have parents come in and read with or listen to children reading, even in the primary and especially with elementary children. We have mechanisms for them to support each other. So making meals for each other when somebody has a baby, praying together when families are in crisis or suffering a loss. We have events that are scheduled throughout the year that help with the environments, but together all at once, and that they can bring their children with them. So we do something called Dads with Tools, which is like in August, when we're all scrambling to get our environments, ready again for the next year. And there's always a list of things. And we just say, like, here's the things that need to happen. And there's chips and beer at the end of it. And they can talk with each other or get back to their wives or families. But then they feel like, I just did something really important for my child's classroom. And it's a way to connect with them. We do a big spring cleanup, events throughout the year. And we think of it in the same way as we think of children. So everyone needs to have a sense of belonging. And if you want parents to be involved, they need to feel like they belong. Which means they need to feel like they have something to contribute, and in a meaningful way. This is exactly what we do with children in the classroom, right? With practical life and care of the self and care of the environment. But ask yourself the question, what am I or my teachers doing that a parent could do for me? Am I cutting things that I shouldn't cut? Am I cleaning something I shouldn't clean? Am I, not asking for help? If it doesn't take my specific skill set, like, think about, hey, how can we have a parent contribute?
I love that. I really do. I think that would make a great little thing to add to parent emails when you send the parent emails and say, hey,
Yeah.
by the way, I have some things. Maybe you could help me
Yeah.
out with that.
Yeah.
That
In
would,
our weekly update, we have a header every week that says volunteer need of the week. And we just put something else in there of whatever it is that's most on our mind, of like, we need some. This week it was we're reorganizing some books in our little hallway library. And so those books are for elementary children, but we had a toddler parent say, sure, I'll come and organize those books. And she got so excited about it, she's coming back next week.
that's awesome.
So yeah, it makes them feel like there's a real way, and it's real, because if she wasn't here, we'd be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's so. Do you get that same kind of involvement engagement with really busy families where you've got two working parents, or is that more
Yeah.
challenging?
That's always harder. And it's harder for them too. Like most families, and lots of families, I mean, we live in Northern Virginia. It's oftentimes a two income area. And it's hard for a lot of families. And so wanting to be engaged, but not having the time is hard. So we do it two ways. We do it with a carrot and a stick. So one of the carrots is we offer a lot of opportunities to do this. One of the things we try to do a lot of is engaging parents in things they can do at home to still make them feel like they're connected to. So there's a lot of cutting and laminating. There's always cutting and laminating in a Montessori school. Database entry, thank you letters, sending home something that's broken that can be fixed. One of the things I always like to ask parents is like, what do you like to do? What are your gifts and talents? You know, if somebody can sew or somebody can fix something, there's piles of things going home every day. Then the little stick aspect is we do have a requirement every year. So every family has to volunteer for 20 hours during the year. We make that as easy as possible. We have a system called Track It Forward, so they can always find what's available to do. They can sign up to do it right through the system. They can log their hours that way. But then, and if they just really can't, then they can buy out at $25 an hour. But no one wants to pay $25 an hour, so they really will find those things that can be done at home. With very few families who will buy out that way. The other thing we do, especially for families who have two working, is there's another way to connect with the classroom, and that is to purchase something for it. So sometimes what we need is like a special snack for the elementary, or we need more sand for the sandbox, or you name it. There's always a list in your back of your mind of what you need, and instead of just asking them to just pay for not being able to show up here, like if it's one of the things on our list and they spend that $25 on something on the list, it also goes towards their hours. So even though they're not able to show up here, they feel like they're able to contribute because they really are.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. So I want to talk a little bit about creating that trust and communication that goes back and forth with parents.
Yeah.
What role does communication play in building trust with families?
Yeah, this is critical. Communication is the way that humans connect and relate to each other, right? So I can't emphasize how important this is enough. All the things I've been saying about saying, we want to succeed at connection and relationship, it all starts with communication. And so for us, I set a very strong tone with this right away, with policies and all that we do. Communication is not just words. The most important piece of communication is body language, tone of voice, all of these pieces that go into really talking with and understanding another person. So we do not ever email about a child to a parent. And if we receive an email about something that happened from a parent to a child, we will respond with that, say, let's talk about it in person. It's so critical. What I say to parents is that this is the most important topic that you're ever going to talk about in your family, right? So we're not going to treat that as just another email to shoot off. The other thing that's really critical is that I just make myself available whenever. I have an open door policy. Every once in a while, I'm just in a meeting and I'm not available. But I really stress over and over, I'm at pickup every day. I'm at drop off every day. My office door is open. In all of our communications, I say, I really do want to talk to you, and nothing is too small. And that the word gets around and people talk to me, and sometimes it does feel small, but talking about something small means you're not talking about something big. So it's just really important. It's just really important.
Yeah, I think having a lot of communication is really important. So being consistent on the communication, I think your body language is really important as well. As you mentioned,
Yeah.
that's 90% of communication right there is body, is all the nonverbals. And I think that it's also really important as the head to be visible. And I, for me, I know that sometimes I'm not 100% and I really don't want to be visible. And I really do
Yeah.
make it a commitment that to my families and to my school that even on those days that I don't want to be visible, I am visible. And I might say, I'm here, but let's try and schedule something for the future because I want to give you my 100%. And today I'm
Yeah.
a little under the weather for whatever reason. And I think that it's generally received very well. But yeah, I think that being available and visible is extremely important as the head. One of the things I remember, this is right before COVID. I've been doing this for 13 years. So right before COVID, I remember I was still very new at this, and I was starting to see what some people call the parking lot gang.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the first time I realized how important it was to have that communication so that the need to have a parking lot gang uh wasn't there. So I don't want to stop it if it's there, right? I can't stop people from communicating, but I can like make the need for it to dissipate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that availability, but also I hear you say authenticity, right? Like you're there and available, but you're authentically saying like I'm not as available to you today as I would like to be because of this, that, or the other thing. So, it's really important for parents to understand that it's also okay for us to be human and have our own, to share the joys of your own personal, but also the hardships, right? Like I didn't get enough sleep last night. I'm just getting through the day. Can we schedule another time?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so one thing that both of our schools have in spades, I would say, is that we're a mission driven community and we have this mission driven culture. So, how do you ensure that that mission is evident in all aspects of the school through your staff and families? And how are we aligning everything to that mission?
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah, mission driven is just kind of who we are and how we do this work. And so that focus is just upfront in everything we do. In our marketing materials, but also, right away at a prospective parent visit, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how we do Montessori, this full vision of Catholic Montessori to the whole child and not stripping away any of the pieces of what Dr. Montessori envisioned for the child. And so this is language I'm just using right away. We have it in our parent packages. I have links in terms of like to the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd. We talk about this as the heart of our school. So that happens in parent interviews and in everything else afterwards, but also with my staff, right? So the I don't, right away, the staff, even just interviewing a new staff member, I'm going to have them observing. I'm going to have them doing research on what Catechesis of the Good Shepherd is. I'm going to have them, really talking to me about what it is we do here and what we're trying to accomplish. And then, it flows from there. At every decision we make, it sometimes gets lost, but every enrollment decision, every discipline decision that I make, every scheduling decision I make, every budget decision I make, it just runs through this lens of the mission of this school. But I think the most critical thing is that I work every day to I don't always succeed, but I work to live and model our mission myself so that when someone meets me and sees me and is part of this school, they can see through me what it is that we're striving for. I always say that this work will make you a better person, because trying to do that every day, when Dr. Montessori says, she basically lists a list of virtues of what do the leaders and teachers of a Montessori school need to look like? And it's just virtue after virtue after virtue after virtue. I'm really blessed to be able to be doing a work that requires me to continue to grow in virtue as well. And then, so on the other side of it, though, we also have very purposeful check-ins to make sure that we're actually doing this thing. So I'm observing regularly, as often as I can. I have meetings with my full staff at least once a month. I have meetings with my leads every other week. We use a system called Parent Pulse, which is a survey system. So that is every 2 months. It's a regular place of connection and communication with parents. We put very purposeful questions on there, like, what is our reputation in the community? Our children, what kinds of things do we need to make sure that we're doing well, because this is our mission? Are children leaving here stronger in their faith than when they came? My board looks at this 3 times a year, and then over the course of the year, so at our 20-year anniversary, we started a 5-year strategic planning cycle. So we now have a 5-year strategic planning cycle to also have check-ins on these things. So it's just pervasive everywhere. So it has to be on the front end, but you have to be kind of reporting to yourself and others and gathering information to make sure that you're not going off course away from your mission.
I think intentionality, as you mentioned, with being a Montessori, being the adult in a Montessori environment means that you have to be prepared. We know that. Dr. Montessori talks about that. Similarly, as the head of school of a Montessori school, you would really have to do it with a lot of intentionality, that prepared environment, or prepared adult, excuse me. And so that it is hard. Every year we hear the homily about what the expectation is as a Catholic, right? And when you're single, your expectation, is this, and then all of a sudden the expectation's on you as soon as you become married. It like, I felt it. I remember the morning I woke up after the wedding, and I felt like this responsibility just grow.
Yeah.
I have to I really felt that responsibility of doing that for my husband. And then with my children, now the expectation grows again. But that same feeling I had on my heart was the same feeling the first day I opened up my school as the head of school. And you just feel it. And I can only imagine what it would be like for a priest to have that same kind of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And you do feel it. And so I know you were talking about all the virtues that Dr. Montessori was. Feel it to like the 10th power, let's say.
All eyes on you, right? Just like, and it grows, but it's a gift. It's really a gift, because it keeps us focused on what we know we need to be focused on.
I love that you said that it is a gift, because that responsibility is, like you said, a gift, one that makes us better as people and closer, I feel, to Jesus, right? That's the goal.
Absolutely. That's the goal.
It's the goal. So I was going to ask you about the hiring practice, but you kind of talked a little bit about that. So I'm going to move on to, what does it look like when the Montessori community is really working? Like, when is it like all steam ahead?
This is what you see. Yeah. I think the fruits, right? So the fruits that you see in a Montessori community that's really working is that relationships, and not just adults to children or children to children, all of the different pieces of relationship are marked by just warmth and love. I think I got a love note from a child yesterday. Just like, he tried to spell my last name. It was Mrs. Dankowski. That is really hard to spell. It doesn't even look like it's supposed to be. that, and he got really close, and just like, I love you. And the way that we're all connected to each other, the children who want to play together after school, parents who want to be around each other, with just mutual respect. Adults, you see adults with humility and really being attentive. One of the things that I see is respect in the carpool line. I know that seems hard to imagine, but that's a thing that flows out. When a parent is like, oh no, that's okay, I'll wait. When they see somebody struggling with their toddler, I love that. Of course, the other fruit is children who are independent and self-disciplined and joyful. We're looking for joy. The thing that hurts my heart the most is if I hear a child says, I'm not happy to come to school, right? We're looking for really joyful children. And really, I just think we're looking for a little mini society, where everyone is trying to have more personal growth and wanting to contribute to the outside world. So one of the things I love seeing is, we had a parent, actually we had a former parent contact me the beginning of this year and say, I have this family that's really struggling, that we know. I knew that it was you guys that I needed to contact because all of the people there are going to come together. And they did. I mean, the children, they just did a drive, the children, like, the whole thing, and just like showered this family in need, with what they needed. So to have it also translate into the outside world and to the church in general, is what I love to see.
Goosebumps. I love that. Feels over here.
Yeah.
So how does that strong school community impact children differently?
Yeah. That's a really good question. One of the things that, in my time as a Montessorian and in the trainings that I've had, one of the things I know so clearly is there's no neutral education. There's no way to be neutral with children. Especially children under 6 are absorbing absolutely everything, and it becomes who they are. So a child who grows up in a Montessori community that is thriving in the ways that we just talked about it will take that into their whole life. Dr. Montessori says, show me the child of 6, I will show you the man. Show me the family and I will show you society. You show me the community and I will show you the world. So when a child is growing up in this kind of a community that we're all striving for. Now, I'm painting a beautiful picture, right? But we have trouble. It's not like we don't have trouble. There are difficult conversations all the time. There's hard, but that's part of life. And the most important part is to repair and continue. And when a child is seeing that, they become confident, they become independent, they become explorers of the world. They feel that security and that rootedness in who they are as a child of God within their family and their greater community. And it allows them to have that full life, not just as a children, but as adults. We have graduates now, because we started in 2002. And so there are children who grew up in our community that are now having families of their own. My own daughter is one of them. And, we're seeing these fruits of joyful family life of the next generation, in beautiful ways, and striving for eternal happiness with the Good Shepherd. I just think it's invaluable. Of course, I do what I do because I think it's so invaluable, but it's not neutral. And children growing up seeing adults treating each other this way, and being together in a community of children is how it forms them.
Oh my gosh. I look forward to that day when I have their children come through here.
That's so fun. It just started, right? Our oldest graduates are about 25, 26 now. And so we have 3 of them who are married and 2 with babies. And it's just the funnest thing.
And we're right now where we're at is the children are going to college. Our first graduates are going to college, and they're graduating college, and so we're not far behind. But my goodness,
it'll be great. Our next step will be having an alumni child attend. So
Oh,
we're working on that.
I'm going to pray for that for you
A
guys.
year or
Oh
two
my
away.
gosh.
So,
So, Kristina, thank you so much for this meaningful conversation. I think a lot of our audience members are going to get a lot of
I hope
great.
so.
No, I think so. I think so. Um, can you tell our audience what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Sure. Email is always a great way to contact me. My last name is hard to spell, but it's K Dankowski at rmsmail.org. But if that's hard to remember, admin at rmsmail.org always gets me as well, through my administrator. So I'm happy to receive. If you go online, it's renaissancemontessorischool.org. We are just in the middle of a rebrand, so that website will be refreshed in the next couple of months. So we're excited about that. But you can always contact me through that as well.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and put all of this in the show notes, so it'll be a nice little hyperlink.
Yeah.
And I love how you highlighted in our conversation about how Montessori isn't just in the classroom. You had talked about how we similarly treat our adults with the same kind of dignity, and we are making sure that everyone feels like they belong. So it's about those relationships, trust, and building something bigger for tomorrow, and we're doing it together. So for our listeners, if you're a parent or school leader, I hope this conversation inspires you to think about how we can intentionally support families and cultivate community, not as an add-on, but as a core part of education. Thank you again, Kristina, for joining us on Montessori Mindset. And thank you to our listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and check out more conversations like this one on Waterfront Academy's podcasts. Until next time, keep nurturing the whole child. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.